Alright, today we will be replacing some rear brakes, pads, rotors, one caliper, some rear hubs, the backing plates, the dust covers, the dust shields rather, and this is on a 2003 Volvo V40. Jack the car up, take the wheel off, and then we'll start working on the brakes. Okay, if you've ever wondered what happens to a rotor when you let the pads wear right down past, wow, this is extreme case here. Outside pad is actually altogether gone, and you can see how thin this rotor is versus factory, because it's been just spinning effectively right on the caliper itself. And you can see filaments of metal everywhere, so we're having to not only replace, we're having to replace everything here. Here we go. So the bolt itself, 13 maybe? 13. Counter hold of 15 maybe? Counter hold 15, bolt. Once you get it going here, 13, get a ratcheting wrench. Top one done. Let's do the bottom. 13. 15 counter. How this started is that I had a leaking brake line, where the caliper actually was leaking brake fluid, which led to a bunch of other stuff. Whew. Pad, no pad. Just shaving away the caliper. Wow. I'll take the carrier off while I'm at it. The carrier is 2 bolts, and they are 14s.
Do yourself a favor, and if you are going to attempt this job, purchase some 6-sided sockets instead of the traditional 12. These 2 bracket bolts can be quite stubborn, and you run the risk of stripping them all together if you use a 6-sided socket.
It'll be done for the day. Ooh. Ooh. Second bolt out. Carrier out. The good news is the sliders are behaving nicely. Take the 2 10mm retaining bolts out for the there are 2 screws. Anyway, 2 Phillips screws down there underneath that little pad, underneath that little plastic cover. And there are 2 screws here, well, one here, one here, so you just gotta pry this off to get access to them. Do that. Take the rubber cover off. Should be able to. It's just a matter of, there are 2 little tabs there that you push inwards. And then if you put a bone tool in here and flick it upwards, you should be good here. 1, 2, 4 screws out. I think pull the handbrake halfway up. Lift the whole thing from the rear. You should be able to just move this thing right out of here. So my hand's back here. I'm lifting, lift and slide over the handbrake handle. Take the cover off. Here are the 2 handbrake cables, and here's the bolt you have to loosen as much as possible to give yourself lots of slack at the caliper. On mine it's a 13 mil, so just put a ratcheting screwdriver on, or a ratcheting wrench on there. Loosen it right up. Seems pretty good. Okay. The key is to get this little thing over and up and over this little hook on the caliper itself. Idea is try and remove the handbrake assembly from the bracket first, and that'll obviously give you tons of play up here. Oh, there we go. So here's the trick. If you pull the handbrake assembly forward, you can then take the caliper and maneuver it sideways until it comes right out of the handbrake assembly. Then you rotate it out. There we go, and it's off. Upstairs. Epitome of laziness here, isn't it? Oh, there we go. This is a 30mm socket. You don't need to brace the wheel, or you don't, this is solid. It doesn't spin with the wheel is what I'm trying to say. So this part should just come out. Some gentle tapping should come out. Heat would be good right now. got reinforcements. Wow. Ah. 13?
Yep, it's a 13 millimeter socket. These bolts were so rusted that I started off with a 15, then went to a 14, and then what you hear me here realizes that it's in fact a 13mm socket. So be absolutely sure to use 6-sided sockets if you're in the rust belt, like I am for this job.
Aha! Fucking 13, that's why. You're right. You know.
Move?
Oh.
Yeah, move.
Wow.
There you go. Yeah, and they're real fine thread.
Those were a pain. So I got all four loosened, and I can put the brake shield on. And they are in fact 13mm, not 15, not 14.
Just adding a little bit of anti-seize on the bolts here.
Oh, mo. All right, here we go. 30. I imagine Volvo would say replace this bolt. Woo! just gonna step on it. Okay, so new backing plates on, axle bolts on, ABS tone ring looks perfect. Caliper's been wound back, somewhat cleaned. Put the e-brake on it first. I'm going to hook this on first and then slide this over it, and then make sure that the little rubber thing comes over top. How do I do that? Oh, I see. Then just put the rubber grommet back on all the way. There. There. So I've got it hooked in. I've got it hooked in here. So I hooked this up first, then I slid it into this clip, metal clip. Then I pushed the rubber back on to make sure you got coverage of the cable. Now I gotta put the disc on. This on. Good. There we go. Okay. All my stuff. Okay. just a matter of 15 is the counter hole. Was it 13? 15, 13. These don't need to be put on too tight. Transfer the brake line. Take this off. So, time to transfer the brake line. Just be aware there are 2 copper washers that you don't want to lose and that you absolutely need. You're not supposed to reuse them. I am, unfortunately. So here's one of them. And the other one, pry it off. I love the way these rear brake hoses are designed, actually, and that's not sarcasm. So it's a little hook. It's a little hook that inserts in here and then holds this steady as you tighten so you won't mess up. So I'm gonna leave the copper washer here. I'm gonna make sure I don't lose the other one. And now I'm gonna transfer the line. 14 to undo it. So let's see if I can't get this with the impact wrench. Is it a 14? Yes, it's a 14. Okay. So, there's your copper washer number 2. I don't want to lose too much brake fluid, so I'm going to put this on as quickly as I can. I'm going to pick the one that looks cleaner. This one looks cleaner.
There are 2 steps that I didn't call out explicitly in this guide. The first is inspecting, lubricating, cleaning the guide pins. So before putting the caliper back on, pull both guide pins right out. They'll come right out. If you pull hard enough, the rubber will release itself from the caliper. Inspect them, make sure they don't have any pits, clean them, lubricate them, take a good look at the rubber grommets, make sure they're in good condition, and then push them back onto the caliper. The second thing I don't cover here is bleeding the brakes. Anytime you open up a brake line or brake lines, you must bleed the brakes to get rid of any air in the brake lines. Bleeding the brakes on the V40 is no different than any other vehicle. Tons of videos out there will show you how to do that, and hopefully you get through that task without any issues. I hope this video has been of help to someone out there. If you're attempting this job, good luck. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.
Okay, here we go. And there's a whistle. It's in. So it's just a matter of bleeding the caliper now. A lot of garbage here. Okay. So it's all done. So it'd be nice if someone were able to come out now, actually. You could